Hi, Teresa here from Humanitarians with a weekly tip, or whatever you want to call it. And today I wanted to talk about stakes, the concept of stakes. Yeah, particularly when it comes to decision making or negotiation, which is similar, right, but not the same. So sometimes humanitarian negotiation is framed almost exclusively from the point of view of gaining access and authorization, meaning that most of the time what we think is at stake for us in a negotiation is access or authorization. Obviously, to have any impact at all on a population, we need to access the people we are trying to help. That's obvious. And they need to be able to access whatever services or we are providing. In humanitarian work, however, there's a lot more at stake than meets the eye. And there's a lot more at stake in negotiations than access or authorization. So what do stakes mean? Stakes is basically what is being negotiated about, or what are going to be the implications, let's say, explicit or implicitly, of a decision taken or the result of a negotiation. And I make the distinction between explicit and implicit because it's not always obvious to us the ramifications of particular decisions or outcomes of negotiation, particularly if enough analysis hasn't been done, which is often the case. To give a simple example, you may go to the mayor of a town to negotiate to be able to do whatever you want to do. And for you, in your head, what's at stake is getting you the authorization to do whatever you want to do. But for the mayor, there are probably a lot more things at stake than you realize, right? That goes without saying. From every negotiation outcome, there will be people who benefit, people who lose something, people who have to compromise. And these are what the stakes are, but we have to understand them as they move outwards from just merely us getting access, because there's a lot of reasons why we could be given access and not just because we're doing a good deed. So every time you negotiate, you will need to have or have to make a decision, you will need to have a good understanding of what is at stake for all the different people, parties, actors who are going to be impacted by the result of the negotiation or the decisions taken. Yeah, you have to know what's at stake for each of those people, right? Because it's not the same. Going into a negotiation only thinking about what you want, or thinking, which is even worse, that you are negotiating on behalf of the population or different target populations, is naive and also extremely arrogant. Yeah, a humanitarian mandate does not give us any authority or legitimacy to negotiate on behalf of anyone except our own organization, right? We haven't been, apart from maybe the ICRC or organizations like that, but your normal humanitarian organization, our mandates are self-given. They're not, a population doesn't come and go, yes, and negotiate for us. No. So we have to remember that, yeah. So we have to remember that we're not negotiating on behalf of anybody except ourselves, yeah. Also, when I say it's naive, it's because we don't know what different populations or different people's interests are. We don't know what's at stake for each person or each group, though it is our job to try to find out as much as possible about what is at stake for the different segments of population. We have to do that, because if we don't understand the ramifications, the consequences, let's say, of what's at stake when something happens, we're missing out on vital information. So another example, when you go to negotiate access with an armed state actor or a non-state actor, you need to see the big picture for them, not just for you, right? For them, because and that means like understanding what's at stake for the person you're negotiating with, in saying yes and in saying no. and who, if that armed actor gives you access, who's going to be, to oversimplify, happy about that, and who's not going to be happy about that, and why. Yeah. And sometimes I think, we assume, no, that when we're granted access or authorization, it's because people want us there. And it's not the case. It's because sometimes it's in their interest, or it doesn't diverge from their interests. Stake analysis is key, not just for negotiations, but also for decision making. But we have to remember also that understanding stakes is also understanding their measure, right? Because everything at the end of the day is in degrees or along a continuum, as I keep saying, right? So what can be a high stake impact or result or consequence for one person can be a low stake or no stake for somebody else. So we have to understand that. So if a decision is taken by an armed actor or a mayor, that decision will have different level of repercussions for different people. So maybe if there's a decision about my organization's access to Zone A, maybe that's low stakes for somebody and high stakes for somebody else. And we go back to the example. If I am going to give out free medication, that has high stakes for both the population and whoever is getting money for medication at the moment. But one is positive and one is negative, right? So I have to be able to analyze all of this. If not, I'm not prepared. To conclude, understanding what's at stake for as many different segments or interests is key, because if you're going to a negotiation or you're going to make a decision, you will need to understand that, because it's not just about the negotiation itself, it's not just about the decision itself, it's about the consequences of the decision for the people who have a stake in the negotiation or a stake in the decision. See you next week.